Okay, so remember that when you are making measurements, you want to measure to the smallest measurement marking on your instrument plus one estimated number after that. So we're going to practice first using this balance here to get a mass. So we're going to, this is the lab that was in your Module 1, Lesson 1.07, and it tells us to put the empty cylinder on the balance. So that's what I'm doing here. And then I want to get this little point to where it's pointing at this white line on the 0. So I'm going to move this little bar up here over, and then I'm going to, and I think this is right, I'm going to move this little one here until it looks like, and that looks like it's pointing pretty good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I have to measure. I know that it's 20-something grams, but then I come down here and I see that the little point on this little silver mark is almost at the 7. So what that means is that it's almost 27 grams. But notice that my smallest measurement marking is not the 7, but it's actually the little marks in between the 6 and the 7. If we count, there's 10 little marks between the 6 and the 7, so that means that each one of those are 1/10. So if it's in between the 9th mark and the 7, then that is 26.9, but notice that it's not exactly on that 26.9. It looks like it's a little bit past the 26.9 mark. So that might be 26.92. So as you see there, the 26.9 is the smallest mark. Okay, the smallest mark is the 0.9. So 26.9 is the smallest marking. But remember, we're supposed to measure one estimated place past that. So the 26.92, okay, that 2 is my estimated. You know, I can't tell that that's exactly 26.92, but I can tell that that little point is past the 26.9 maybe just a little bit. It's not quite 27, so that's why I'm calling it 26.92, okay? So therefore, on this mass, on the masses, when you're using this balance, you should have been able to get 2 places past the decimal. And now we're going to add that to our data table. And now it's wanting us to fill this graduated cylinder to about 8.5 milliliters. So I'm going to move this over here, and I'm going to let it fill up to between the 8 and the 9 would be about 8.5. And then I'm going to, oh, I added too much, so I've got to do it again. Let me try it one more time. Stop it a little bit sooner this time. It goes awful fast. So, okay. So now I can see here. So now I see that my purple liquid is in between the 8 and the 9. And I notice that in between the 8 and the 9 there are 10 little markings. So that means each one of those markings is 0.1. So I notice that this goes up to, it looks like the 6th mark in between the 8 and the 9. So that would be 8.6. And it looks like it might be directly on the 8.6. So if it was directly, remember 8.6, the 0.6 is the smallest marking. But remember, we have to estimate one past that. So if I thought it was directly on the 8.6, I would say 8.60. But to me, it looks like it might be just a hair above the 8.6. So in that case, I might say 8.61. And so what that means is that with this graduated cylinder, I can measure 2 places past the decimal. The 0.6 is the smallest marking, and then I can estimate 1 place past that. So again, since I think it's maybe a little bitty tiny bit above the 8.6, then I might call that 8.61. And so that would be the answer that I would enter here to go in my data table, 8.61, and that would be milliliters. So 8.61. And I'm going to add that to my data table. Okay, and then you have to do the same measuring again. You have to measure the cylinder again now that it has the fluid in it. And again, remember, using this balance, we can measure to 2 places past the decimal. So again, I'm trying to get that little arrow to point to the white line that says 0. And I'm going to have to move it over a little bit more. So that looks like that's probably pretty good there. So it looks like it's 30. And then again, it's a little bit past the 7 here. I'm looking at this bottom point down here, 37. But it's not on the 1, so I know it's 37 point something. It's not 37.1. So it's probably something like maybe 37 point, if it's between the 7 and the 1, then it has to be 0.0 something. And if I say that it's directly in between the 37 and the 37.1, then I might call it 37.05. Or if I think that it's like just right there on the 37, maybe just a little bitty hair past the 37, I might call that 37.01. But anything in between 37 and 37.1 is going to be 37.0 something. So 37.01 or 37.02. Again, with these kind of balances like we're using on this little lab, this little triple beam balance is what it's called, you should be able to estimate to 2 places past the decimal. Okay? Now, if we go to our next, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the new to the actual activity, and I want to use, there's a graduated cylinder in here as well that I want us to look at because it's different than the one that we used just a second ago to measure the purple liquid. So again, this is a digital balance. If we put our metal on there, we see 39.308. You just write that down in your data table. So you just click and there it's going to be. Now we're going to use this graduated cylinder, which is different. If you notice this graduated cylinder, the one that we used to measure our purple liquid, it was measured by ones, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, this one's not. It goes by tens. So what that means is that since these measurement markings mean a bigger amount, we're not going to be able to measure as many places past the decimal with this one. So this one is telling us to add about 50 milliliters. So I'm going to try to stop it at about 50 milliliters. Okay, and now we can see close up here. Okay, since this is 50 and this is 60, we know that these 10 markings are, this is 10 milliliters and there's 10 markings, so each one of those markings is worth 1 milliliter. So I see here that my blue liquid comes up to the fifth right there in the middle between 50 and 60, so that would be 55. Okay, so 55, the second 5, is our smallest measurement marking on this graduated cylinder, 55. But remember, we can estimate 1 place past that. So if I say this is directly on the 55, I would say 55.0. But to me, it looks like this might be just a hair above the 55. So I might call that 55.1. Okay, again, the second 5, 55, that second 5 is the smallest measurement marking, and I can estimate 1 place past that. So I'm saying that looks like it's a little bit above the 55, that blue liquid is, so I'm calling that 55.1. So I should have been able to measure my volumes with this graduated cylinder to 1 place past the decimal. When we were measuring the purple liquid in the first part, because the measurement markings meant a smaller amount, I could estimate 2 places past the decimal. But with this one, because these measurement markings are representing a larger amount, I can only estimate 1 place past the decimal. So I would estimate that as 55.1. Okay? Now, the last thing I want to show you is I want to show you about using the ruler, because most of us had trouble with the ruler as well. So I'm just going to put this on here, and I'm just going to punch something in because I don't really want to, I'm not worried about that one. I'm just putting something in there because we've already done that. And what I want to do is I want to use the ruler. Okay, so let's look at the ruler. Okay, again, we're measuring up close here. Now, a lot of us, for this one, this is the width of this block. We wanted to say, first of all, our measurement marking, we have a 3 and a 4, so that means these 10 marks are each 1/10 or 0.1. So we look right here and we see, okay, that's right there in the middle at that fifth mark. So we would call that 3.5, and we all just stopped there. But remember, 3.5, that 0.5 is the smallest marking on this ruler. We should be able to estimate 1